Good morning, everyone. Herbalife Nutrition. It is Monday. Happy Monday. It's extravaganza week. We are excited. Guys, your Monday's just going to get even better and your week is going to start off right. Motivational Monday. And for that, we have, and help me welcome with a big virtual welcome, Executive President's Team 20K, Celeste Richmond. Celeste, are you on?
I am on. Thank you so much. Thank you, corporate, for the opportunity to be able to speak to all these incredible leaders inside of North America. Thank you to each and every one of you who has joined this morning. Shout out to you guys. What an epic call and an opportunity. My name is Celeste Richmond. I am from California and I've been with Herbalife the last 8 years. It's been such an incredible experience. Come a long way. And, preparing for this call, have just really gotten clear on how grateful I am for the journey. Really done a lot of reflection over the last couple of days leading up to this. And so powerful how we all have a unique experience inside of this company. Starting 8 years ago, I was working in corporate America and working a desk job, sitting inside of an office for 8, sometimes 9, 10, 11, 12 hours a day. My results started going backwards. And I remember I had this breaking point where one day I walked by a mirror and I didn't even recognize myself inside of the reflection. And that's what really sparked my desire to transform myself from the inside out, my desire to not only transform my body, but what would come from that decision would be so much more, would be transformation on a mental, physical, spiritual, financial way of changing and growing and evolving. So it's so good to be here. And again, really excited for this Motivational Monday. I'm going to get into a few things, you guys, and I'm going to be sharing parts of my story throughout this morning. So I was reflecting and I was really thinking, like, what could be powerful? Like, what would be some things that I would want to share with a younger version of myself? Or what would be some things that I would want to share with myself as I was stepping into and transitioning into being a top achiever inside of our company? Because as we grow our royalty, as we grow our business, we step into new sets of challenges. We step into new things that maybe we haven't experienced. We cross roads that maybe we haven't crossed roads like that before. And there's an opportunity for us to grow. There's an opportunity for us to learn from each other. And give each other the game. And I'm so grateful that I had mentors that put me onto game and supported me in being able to navigate some of the trenches that come along with doing and living an epic life. Because if you're on this call, you have chosen to show up inside of your life and inside of your journey in a really amazing way. Like, you've chosen to not just watch from the stands. You've chosen to get in the game, even when it's messy, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it doesn't feel good and you're questioning things. And so I really wanted to share what was on my heart today. I wanted to share some things on how we can connect to our personal power inside of this journey. And so I'm going to share a couple different things that I've learned, throughout this business, throughout this journey. And connecting to our personal power is huge inside of this business, because there have been moments, you guys, there have been moments when over the last years I've been extremely connected to my personal power. There have also been moments, you guys, where I have been disconnected from my personal power, and each moment had an impact on my business partners, had an impact on my business, had an impact on my spirit, how I was feeling, just had an overall ripple effect, right? And so I really use some of these times as like case studies on how to be able to teach other people what maybe in that moment I didn't know at the time, or I wasn't aware of at the time, I wasn't tapped into at the time. And so, how we conduct ourselves inside of business is an extension of how we conduct ourselves in our life, right? And that can be amazing. It can be awesome. And it can also be kind of cringeworthy at times, when we really like look within and we really like hold a mirror up to ourselves, right? And so one of the things I want to talk about, and like I want to define personal power. That's something that is important for us to know, kind of like what we're talking about. And I believe the most effective leaders are those who are guided by a sense of personal power. So it's a status that's unrelated to outer status, ranking, or positioning. So it's a status that's unrelated to outer status, rank, or position. And that's what I want to get into today. Like, how do we obtain that? Because I believe when leaders lack this inner stability, they're more likely to use ineffectively through aggression, maybe intimidation or passivity. And I can relate to that because how it's impacted me personally in the past when I felt disconnected from my personal power as a leader, I tend to be more passive. I tend to not speak up at tables or in situations when I know I have a lot of value to be able to give. And so the game is knowing it's a journey, having a lot of grace, having a lot of compassion, and understanding for ourselves, first and foremost, and being down for the journey to reconnect to our personal power, to tap into it on this journey and have the tools to be able to do so. So I don't know who has access to this chat or not, but if you're down for that and you're excited to connect to that more and have more tools to be able to connect to your personal power, drop a 1 in the chat. And if I'm talking, oh, okay, good. We do have access. Perfect. I love that. I love seeing all these names of people who are in here with me. So I love that, you guys. I love that. Let me see here. So knowing this on a conscious level is amazing, but doing the work to reprogram ourselves on a subconscious level is where it's at, because we can know that we need to be connected to our personal power. But a lot of the times there's been things that have happened in our life, in our past, well before we came into Herbalife, that still run certain stories in our life, that still run patterning and programming inside of our life that dictate how we may show up or how we've shown up in the past, the decisions that we make, how we respond or react inside of situations with our team, right? How we are going to show up to the biggest event of the year, extravaganza that's in a couple days, right? This is all stuff that really matters. So I think it's great where we can go to a place of, maybe there may be something that I say. I believe we already know everything I'm going to say on this call. I believe that we all know. I believe that I am not really teaching you anything new. It's simply, I'm here to serve as a mirror to you. I'm here to simply serve as a reminder of what it is that you do know inside of you and to connect you to your knowing and your truth even more, right? Because when you're connected to yourself, your intuition, and your knowing, that's also a bridge to your personal power. And that's my goal today, is for you to be more connected to you and your truth. So the first thing, you guys, is going to be practice telling a better story. All right. So how are you narrating your story? That's going to be the first thing that I ask. Is there a good guy and is there a bad guy? Is there a villain and a victim? And how is that serving you? Just food for thought, right? These are things that I'm constantly asking myself as I navigate my day and I go through life. Every day is an opportunity to reframe our story and create and choose a more empowering narrative. Okay, so things that I ask myself, it could be me inside of my nutrition club, something happens, maybe I don't like the way someone talked to me, maybe I don't like the way that they spoke to me, or something came up for me. Maybe I'm feeling some type of way because, I'm on a team call and more people seem to like have their camera off, and what's going on? Why are people not, tuned in, or whatever it might be that I could be making these things mean, right? And I'll ask myself, like, say it's the interaction with someone else. Like, did somebody do something to me, right? Or you know, is there somehow a role that I played to contribute in it? With whatever it might be, if there's a disagreement, because we know that inside of leadership, there's going to be challenges, there's going to be personality differences, and there's going to be constant opportunities to be able to exercise better communication, ask better questions, take personal responsibility, even when it's not easy, even when much of us have been programmed to point fingers, right? We have to constantly work with like reconditioning ourselves and programming ourselves to really take more responsibility on where we played a part in things. And it's not because other people didn't play a part in certain instances or in certain issues, because they could have played a really, really big part and they could have really, really messed it all up. But at the same time, what does that do? How does that empower us? How does blame, if anything, we're giving literally the keys to our power to someone else. So if the conversation is how to connect to our personal power, part of telling a better story is going to be reconnecting to how we are the creators of our life. We are the creators of what happens to us, the good, the bad, you know, where we're at in this moment. How cool is it that we can really say, that, you know, I am responsible for exactly where I am in this moment. I am responsible for everything that is happening in my life, the good, the bad, the less favorable, all of that. And so it's not to give someone else the out. It's simply to be able to serve our well-being of being able to take responsibility. So be mindful of how you tell a story. If there is a villain, if there is a victim, who's the bad guy, who's the good guy. I promise, either way, whichever side of the fence you're on, villain or victim, if there is a right and a wrong, and if it's really black and white like that, there's a big chance that it's not serving you being connected to your personal power. So I just want to leave you with that. That's the first thing, which leads me into the second thing, you guys, which is authorize yourself. Okay, authorize yourself. You get to validate you. All right, if you feel that, drop a 2 in the chat. You get to qualify you. Okay, because validation is for parking, for real, for real. And we can get things twisted sometimes inside of this business. In the past 8 years of my journey, there's been seasons, like I said, where I lived inside of a faulty paradigm. Okay, it was a paradigm, it was a school of thought where I thought it will, when I achieve this thing, it will be all good. Okay, that was like what was driving me. And when I hit this next level, right, it will show that I'm worthy to lead and to be listened to. Ooh, like if you felt that, drop a 3 in the chat, right? Once I hit this level, it will show that I'm worthy to lead and be listened to, right? By my team. I'll have a strong listening with the team if I hit this pinnacle, right, of success. So here's the thing though, when I was moving and shaking inside of the business, because I've been in this thing for 8 years and I want you guys to understand something. Okay, if I put up my start date, April 2012, to where we're at in 2020, and if I divide my journey perfectly in half, my first 4 years and my second 4 years of my journey, I want you to understand how my logic created a lot of stress and suffering for myself over the last 8 years. Because in the first 4 years, I had over 10 pin changes happen in that 4-year time period, okay? So we moved very fast to President's Team, all right? By the way, in the beginning, I didn't really share my results. Your girl lost 30 pounds, dropped her body fat by 14%. And that felt amazing because it sparked massive action in the business that would lead to growing and attracting some incredible business partners and friends inside of an incredible window, kind of like the window that we're in right now. That led to extraordinary, beautiful growth, hitting millionaire team inside of a year, right? Boom. Senior consultant, right? Qualified producer, supervisor, active supervisor, crushing it, high volume, right? Right into active world team and first team global expansion team within 7 months in the business. Final cut of get would have been first cut of 2.5, but they didn't have that pin then. Leading into the next month, being a millionaire team member. Okay, millionaire team, or first cut millionaire team, finishing my final cut of millionaire team April 2013, which would be 1 year in the business. Okay, that's a fast moving story. This is so it, in the paradigm of moving and growing inside of the marketing plan validates my listening. This paradigm worked for my ego in that moment, because it was like, yes, 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 I am great. You should listen to me, right? It worked in terms of keeping me tapped into more of my strength. But what happens when we give so much power to external things? What happens when we give a lot of power to those things? You guys, the second 4 years of my journey did not have that same type of growth trajectory. All right. So once we hit 15K, and by any means, there's no reason, this isn't for any sympathy, because my life is great. However, one thing I do know is that our happiness is linked to our progress. And sometimes we can think that progress is only achievements and level advancements, but progress and evolution is definitely internal as well. And so everything's happening for us continually if we allow it to, and whether we allow it to or not, it's happening for us. But when we can recognize that, we can truly tap in and we can accelerate our evolutionary process of what's happening. And so basically what I was saying, you guys, is the second 4 years didn't have the same type of growth. So I know what it's like to be crossing the extravaganza stage with multiple pin changes every year. And I also know what it's like to go 3 extravaganzas with no pin changes. I also know what it's like to have team members that are also not crossing the stage for multiple years in a row, holding on to the belief that one day it's going to be their time, holding on to we're on the right track. And if we just continue to show up, if we continue to show up when it's not easy, we're going to have our time, and we're going to have our season, and we're going to have our moment. And I want to share about going into that first extravaganza. I think it was like 2016 or 17, you guys. It was really hard for me because of how I was operating under the guise or inside of the school of thought, when I achieve, it will be all good. Or when I hit this next level, it'll show that I'm worthy to lead and be listened to. And what happened was I was in my stuff, right? If we replace the word stuff with another word, that's pretty accurate. So I went into that event and I was in my stuff because I felt unworthy. So I kind of wanted to disappear and fade into the background and just kind of go through the event passively. I didn't feel worthy of like really sharing my story on the stage. I felt maybe a little bit judged by my peers who were moving. And I share that just to say they weren't judging me. Like, if I look at what really happened, the truth of it is they weren't judging me. They were just mirrors for how I was judging me, right? They were just mirrors for the judgment I placed on myself because of the paradigm that I was living inside of, right? And so I had a chance to really go through that experience, and where it was painful, it was confronting. I created that suffering for myself. And I say that because I want us to take personal power. I want us to take our personal power back, and I want us to recognize where we create suffering for ourselves. And so I'm so happy hindsight is 2020 and we can connect the dots back. I'm so happy that I went through that, and that happened for me. All right. I won't say it happened to me. That experience happened for me, where I got to experience an extravaganza where I was in my stuff, and, and I see where I didn't show up as powerfully for my team inside of that moment. So there was an impact, right? And after that event, I said, never again, right? Regardless of the outcome, regardless of the achievement, never again, right? I can't move that way. It's just not for me, right? So, the sides of that are good. And the recognizing that is it is important. And I want to share openly and authentically, because if you don't know, you don't know, right? And so one of the things I just wanted to say by that is I had an opportunity to grow and really just start to see that, our worth is inherent, right? Our worth is a birthright, right? Because you're born, because you're breathing right now in this moment, you're worthy. And remember, the most effective leaders are those who are guided by a sense of personal power. It's a status, it's unrelated to outer status, rank, or position. So I want you guys to really get that, because if we don't understand that, we can be operating from a faulty premise or way of being that's just really inauthentic. And again, different people will take it out differently. I told you that some people may take it out by aggressively leading, maybe really leading in a wounded masculine way, or being passive like myself, which is like more of like a wounded feminine. And so I just noticed this, like I got to like kind of zoom out 10,000 feet above the situation and look at how Celeste was conducting business. And I got to really just decide and choose if I wanted to step into that pattern over and over painfully, right? Or if I wanted to seek out the tools to be able to connect to my inner power, which isn't connected or related to these outside things, these pins and these achievements, which would then allow me to really powerfully lead the people who I've been called here to lead, right? Which will create incredible, better, like unbelievable, phenomenal results, which will then in turn create the growth that ultimately we're all seeking. All of us want to create royalty growth. All of us want to create business growth. All of us want to attract in that next business partner, that monster, to the everyday people that are just going to continue to add value to our life, to the everyday people that are going to bring us joy because we're working and we're building this business with our best friends, right? We're building this business because it's a journey, and we get to show up inside of our purpose every single day. Every single day we get to show up and we have the opportunity to serve and be on purpose. And so this leads me into the next point, you guys. So I replaced some of that judgment with compassion and grace. And number 3 is we are more than our mistakes, all of them. So when met with awareness and personal power, our mistakes, you guys, our mistakes and imperfections become the doorway to accelerate our personal growth and evolution. So I'm going to say that again. When we meet our mistakes with awareness and personal responsibility, they become the doorway to accelerate our personal growth and evolution if we allow it to. So, and this is kind of like a lot of these points will confirm the same things, like how to connect to our personal power, how we reframe things, the story that we tell, how we relate to our mistakes and things of that master. Because there's been times where I have made, believe me, like so many mistakes. I still make mistakes on the daily because one of the other points that I'm going to bring up, you guys, is there